Welcome back to BookCast FM, bringing books to life one cast at a time. And today we are diving deep into The New 1-Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard and Spencer John.
Ooh, interesting choice.
It is. This 2015 update to their classic leadership book promises a management style that gets amazing results, but also keeps employees happy.
Sounds like a tall order.
Right? But we're going to see if it lives up to the hype.
I'm intrigued. Let's dive in.
Okay, so imagine you're searching for that perfect management style, one that, gets things done but doesn't leave a trail of stressed-out employees in its wake.
Yeah, the holy grail of leadership, right?
Exactly, and that's exactly what this book is all about.
Okay, so where do we start?
Well, the book starts by highlighting this common problem I think a lot of managers fall into.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's this idea that you have to be either tough or nice.
Ah, yeah, that age-old dilemma. Either you're all about the bottom line and, you kind of ignore the human element, or you're everybody's best friend, but nothing really gets done.
Exactly, and the book argues that both of these approaches are ultimately ineffective.
Okay, I'm with them so far. So what's the alternative?
Well, that's where the 1-Minute Manager comes in.
Okay, the who?
The book uses this parable of a young man who's, searching for the ideal management style. And he comes across this legendary figure, the 1-Minute Manager, whose team is somehow both incredibly productive and super satisfied.
Okay, so there is a middle ground.
Right, and the secret lies in 3 core techniques: 1-minute goals, 1-minute praisings, and 1-minute redirects.
Interesting. I'm already curious to know more about these 1-minute things.
Yeah, me too. Let's start with 1-minute goals.
Okay, shoot.
So this one really resonated with me. Instead of having these vague expectations, you sit down with your team member and you actually write down each goal, like super concisely, on a single sheet of paper.
Huh. Interesting. It's all about clarity then.
Exactly. And then you both review it daily.
So there's a built-in accountability system.
Yeah. I love that emphasis on clarity and self-accountability.
Makes sense. But what happens if priorities change or, unexpected challenges come up? Do those goals just become set in stone?
That's a great point. And the book does acknowledge that, things change. It's not about being rigid.
Right. I was hoping it wouldn't be.
Yeah, the daily review is key here because it allows for those adjustments.
Oh, I see. It's like this constant feedback loop where you're making sure the goals are still relevant and achievable.
Exactly.
I like it. The other thing that stands out to me is this emphasis on specificity and measurability. It's not enough to just say improve customer service.
Right. You need concrete targets.
Yeah, like reduce customer complaints by 10%.
Exactly. That way everybody knows what they're working towards and how success will be measured.
And I bet it makes performance evaluations a lot easier, too.
Oh, absolutely, because you have those clear metrics to assess progress.
Yeah, makes those conversations much more productive, I'd imagine.
For sure. Okay, now let's talk about 1-minute pressings.
Okay. This sounds intriguing.
This is where it gets really interesting because it seems kind of counterintuitive to how a lot of managers operate.
How so?
Well, instead of waiting for things to go wrong, the 1-Minute Manager is actively looking for people doing things right and giving them immediate, genuine praise.
Oh, wow. So it's about catching people doing things right instead of just focusing on when they mess up.
Yeah, exactly. It's a total mindset shift.
I can see how that would be powerful, but isn't there a risk that all this praise could become meaningless or even feel insincere?
That's a good question, and the book addresses that too.
Okay, good, because I was wondering about that.
It stresses that it's not about just throwing around generic compliments.
Right, right.
The praise needs to be specific and tied to a particular action or achievement.
Okay, so for example, instead of just saying, good job, you might say something like, I really appreciate how you handled that difficult customer interaction. You stayed calm, you were empathetic, and you found a solution that satisfied everyone. That's exactly the kind of customer service we strive for.
Exactly. It's about being intentional and acknowledging the specific behaviors you want to encourage.
So it's not just about making people feel good, it's about reinforcing those positive actions.
Exactly. And the immediacy of the praise is key too.
Why is that?
Well, think about it from a psychological perspective. When you receive immediate positive feedback for something you've done well, it triggers this sense of accomplishment.
Oh, yeah. It makes you want to keep doing those things.
Exactly. It creates this positive feedback loop.
Interesting. And I bet it also helps build stronger relationships between managers and employees?
Absolutely. Because it creates a both positive and supportive work environment.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these pieces fit together. Now, what about when things don't go so well? Mistakes happen. We're all human.
Right. That's where 1-minute redirects come in.
Okay, fill me in.
So instead of, giving someone a lengthy reprimand or, being super critical,
Yeah.
the 1-Minute Manager provides quick, constructive feedback.
So it's more about guiding them towards improvement.
Exactly. And it's about doing it in a way that doesn't, crush their spirit.
That's a tough balance to strike. Holding people accountable, but also maintaining morale.
Right? And the book emphasizes that this isn't about controlling people, it's about setting them up for success.
Okay, but how does this seemingly simple system actually empower employees?
Well, think about it. When you combine these three techniques, you're providing clear goals, you're recognizing achievements, and you're offering constructive guidance. It creates this environment where people feel trusted and supported and motivated to do their best.
So they're not afraid to take initiative or, make mistakes because I know they'll be supported.
Exactly. It's about shifting that whole work dynamic from one of fear and micromanagement to one of trust and empowerment.
I love it. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground area just with these three basic techniques.
We have. We've just scratched the surface.
I can tell there's definitely more to unpack here.
There is. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore why each of these techniques works on a deeper level.
Okay, we'll get into the psychology behind it all.
Exactly. And we'll see how they create this synergistic effect when used together.
I can't wait. Sounds fascinating. Welcome back to our deep dive into the new 1-minute manager.
We're ready for more.
All right, so we've introduced those three core techniques: 1-minute goals, 1-minute praisings, and 1-minute redirects.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It is, but now let's go a little deeper and explore, what makes these techniques so effective.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that. The book doesn't just present them as like a recipe to follow.
Right.
It actually explains the reasoning behind each one, which I think makes it so much more compelling.
It does. Let's start with those 1-minute goals. Why is that daily review of those clear, concise goals so crucial?
I think it's all about maintaining focus and momentum. When you have those specific measurable goals written down and you're looking at them every day, it's like a constant reminder of what you're working towards.
Yeah, it helps you prioritize tasks and stay on track.
Right. It's like having that roadmap constantly in view.
Exactly. And both the manager and the employee can see where they're headed and make adjustments along the way.
And that daily check-in allows for that open communication.
Absolutely. It's a chance to discuss any roadblocks, celebrate small wins, and just make sure everyone is still aligned on those goals.
Yeah. It's not about being rigid or inflexible.
No, it's about having that ongoing dialogue.
Making sure everything is so relevant.
And achievable, given the circumstances.
What I find really interesting is how this kind of shifts the dynamic.
Yeah. How so?
From the manager being a controller to being more of a guide or a mentor.
It's about empowering those employees to take ownership of their work.
Right. And when you set clear expectations and you provide the necessary support, it just allows people to, flourish and make their own contributions.
I like that. Okay, let's move on to 1-minute praisings.
Okay. This one is so powerful.
It is.
But I can also see how it could be a little bit awkward for people who aren't used to giving or receiving praise so freely.
Yeah, I can see that.
So what makes this immediate, genuine praise so impactful?
Think back to a time when you received, genuine, specific praise for something you did well.
Yeah, it feels amazing.
How did it make you feel?
It's so motivating. You feel valued, you feel appreciated, and it gives you that extra boost to, keep pushing forward.
Exactly. And that's the psychology behind it. Positive reinforcement strengthens those desired behaviors.
Okay.
So when you catch someone doing something right and you acknowledge it right away with specific and sincere praise, it creates that positive association.
Yeah. It's like you're saying, hey, I noticed that and I appreciate it.
Yes, exactly. And it's so much more effective than waiting for, a formal performance review or giving generic delayed praise.
That immediacy is key.
It really is.
I can also see how this can help to build stronger relationships
Between
managers and employees.
Absolutely.
Because it creates this more positive and supportive work environment.
Right, where people feel comfortable taking risks, sharing ideas.
Exactly. Okay, now let's talk about 1-minute redirects.
Okay, the flip side of praise.
Right? Because mistakes happen. We're all human.
We are.
So how does this technique help turn those mistakes into learning opportunities without, completely demoralizing the person?
It's about shifting the focus from blame to improvement.
Okay.
So instead of dwelling on the mistake itself, you quickly address the behavior,
Right.
explain how it impacted the team or a company, and then guide the person towards a solution.
So it's about being clear and direct, but also compassionate and supportive.
Exactly. You're not sugarcoating the situation.
Yeah.
You need to acknowledge the mistake and its consequences.
But
it's also crucial to end that conversation on a positive note,
okay.
reaffirming your belief in the person's abilities and their value to the team.
So it sounds like it requires a very delicate balance.
It does, a firmness and empathy.
Right. It's about holding people accountable while still maintaining that sense of trust and respect.
Exactly, and recognizing that everyone makes mistakes.
It's part of being human.
It is. The key is to learn from them and move forward in a positive direction.
Now we keep talking about how this book emphasizes that it's not about controlling people.
Right.
It's about setting them up for success.
But what does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah. How do you actually empower employees using this system.
Imagine a workplace where everyone has clear goals.
Okay.
Where hard work and initiative are recognized and appreciated,
Mm.
and where mistakes are seen as learning opportunities, not reasons for punishment.
It sounds like a much more positive and fulfilling way to work,
It is, and it's not just about, creating a happy work part.
although that's important.
It is important, but it's also about achieving better results. When people feel valued, supported, and empowered,
Right.
they're more likely to be productive, creative, and engaged.
So it's a win-win.
It is. It benefits both the individual and the organization.
So we've explored the why behind each of these techniques, how they work together to empower employees.
But there's more.
But the book goes even further. It talks about how they create this synergistic effect when used together.
Right. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because they reinforce each other.
Okay.
When you set clear goals, it creates a foundation for success. When you praise people for achieving those goals, it motivates them to keep striving. And when you provide constructive redirects when mistakes happen, it helps them learn and grow.
It's like a positive spiral.
It is, where each element builds upon the other.
And ultimately, it creates a more engaged, productive, and fulfilling work experience for everybody.
For everyone involved.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
Yes, we have.
We've explored the reasoning behind each of the one-minute manager techniques and how they all work together.
To empower employees.
Right. But the book goes even further. It looks at how to apply these principles in different scenarios and addresses some of the potential challenges that you might encounter.
And that's what we'll delve into in the final part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive.
Into the new one-minute manager.
Right. It's time to put all this knowledge into practice.
Let's get practical.
Yeah. So the book doesn't just leave you with, a bunch of theory.
No, it doesn't.
It actually delves into the practical application of these techniques and addresses some of the challenges that you might face.
Right. Because let's face it, real-world implementation is always trickier than it seems in theory.
It is. So one thing I'm curious about is how to adapt this approach to different personalities and situations.
Okay, I like that.
Like, what if you have a team member who's used to a completely different management style?
Right.
Maybe they're used to being micromanaged.
Or the opposite, completely left alone.
Yeah, exactly. How do you introduce these concepts in a way that feels natural and comfortable for them?
Well, I think open communication and transparency are key here. You can't just impose these techniques on people.
Right.
You need to explain the benefits of this approach.
Get their buy-in.
Exactly, and make sure they understand how it can benefit them as individuals.
It's about having that conversation.
It is, and making sure everyone is on board.
And, it might take time for some people to adjust.
Especially if they're used to a very different way of working.
Right. Be patient, provide support, and be open to feedback.
Good advice. And remember, this isn't a one-size-fits-all solution.
No, it's not.
You might need to tweak certain aspects of the techniques to fit your specific work environment.
Or the individual needs of your team members.
Exactly.
So the principles remain the same.
Clear goals,
Genuine praise,
constructive feedback,
but how you implement them might vary.
depending on the context.
Like, for example, the frequency of those one-minute goal check-ins might be different
Right.
based on the nature of the work or the experience level of the employee.
Good point. It's about being flexible and adaptable while staying true to those core principles.
So it's not about rigidly following a set of rules.
No, it's about understanding the underlying philosophy.
Right.
And applying it in a way that makes sense for you,
Your team.
your organization.
One thing I really appreciate about the book
What's that?
is that it acknowledges that employees have a role to play in making this system work.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just a top-down approach.
Right. Employees need to be proactive,
Communicative.
willing to take ownership of their work,
Open the feedback, both positive and constructive.
and actively engaged in that goal-setting process.
It's a collaborative effort.
It is.
Both managers and employees need to be committed to making this approach work.
It's a partnership.
It is, where everyone benefits from clear communication, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to success.
So what does all of this mean for our listener?
Good question.
Whether you're leading a team or you're part of one, these principles can really make a difference in your work life.
They can imagine a workplace where everyone has clear goals,
Okay.
where hard work and initiative are recognized and appreciated, and where mistakes are seen as learning opportunities, not reasons for punishment.
It sounds like a much more positive and fulfilling way to work.
It is, and it's not just about creating a happy workplace.
Although that's certainly a nice bonus.
It is, but it's also about achieving better results.
Because when people feel valued and supported and empowered,
They're more likely to be
productive, creative, and engaged.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
It is. It benefits both the individual and the organization as a whole.
And that's the beauty of the one-minute manager approach.
It is. It's simple, but it's powerful.
A framework for creating a more positive, productive, and human-centered workplace.
Well, there you have it, folks, our deep dive into the new 1-minute manager.
We did it.
We covered a lot of ground. We explored the 3 secrets, the reasoning behind them, and how to actually apply these principles in your own work life.
Navigating those challenges and embracing the possibilities.
Don't forget to check out the link in the description to support the authors by purchasing the new 1-minute manager. You'll find even more insights and practical advice in there.
You will. Thanks for joining us on this journey of bringing books to life.
And until next time, keep those goals clear, those praises flowing, and those redirects constructive. This is BookCast FM, bringing books to life one cast at a time.